Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Elizabeth A. Corshu. I am the founder and CEO of Nurse Innovations, career coaching and global health and consulting brand for nursing professionals, healthcare professionals, and healthcare organizations. I am also the curator of the platform called Pass the Mic. Some of you are probably saying, what is Pass the Mic? Who is Pass the Mic? Well, Pass the Mic is a platform designed specifically for visionaries, game changers, and advocates looking to execute their global footprints into society in the areas of healthcare, business, technology, culture, and so much more. Tonight, we are going to talk about a true story, my nursing journey. I have two guests right now featured. I have Lia Devers, who's present on the screen. She is a second-time career professional that went back for her nursing degree and is currently pursuing her graduate studies in the Master of Science degree in nursing. Soon to hopefully will be graduating in 2023.
Yes.
2023. So I want to say welcome to, thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's a pleasure. We have not seen each other physically since 2019, but it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I believe I saw you in person was in 2018 at the Nurse Innovations brunch.
That's your event.
But you know, it's really a pleasure to see that you've pushed forward and here you are. You're a registered nurse.
Yes.
And you're going on for your advanced degree. And for some of you who are watching the live tonight, or those that will catch the replay, the interesting dialogue of how Lia and I met, I don't quite remember, but you can, clarify some.
I remember. I
remember it was in Barnes and Nobles. I was working, and you came up, and I believe, honestly, I believe it was a strong intuition. Some people say intuition, some people say gut, some will say divine intervention.
Absolutely.
Spirit. I had said it was divine intervention because you didn't know I was a nurse.
Didn't know.
You didn't know. The only thing I think you saw was that I had my cardigan sweater with my DST Sigma Theta sweater, and you were like, "Can I ask you a question?"
Right.
And there's a reason why I'm sharing this story with some of you that are watching, because you just never know who, where, why, and what, when you'll inspire someone. So, at that given point in time, when she said, "Can I ask you a question?" She was just talking. I don't remember all the details. You can jump in, but she was like, I don't even remember. Did you ask me if I was a nurse? I don't even remember.
I think it came back to what am I studying here? Okay. And I said, I'm in nursing school.
Okay.
And then you were like, I'm a nurse. And I'm like, what are the coincidences of that?
Yes.
And, I think from then on, you had given me your business card, and then we continued to speak on the phone, text on the phone, and meet up, occasionally at Barnes and Nobles. I would see you at Barnes and Nobles because you would be working, and of course, I'd be studying during the day.
Yes. And there's a reason why we're sharing this tonight, because you just never know. And I'm going to sound really old school, but my father loved Mr. Rogers. Get to know the people in your neighborhood, know. Get to know who are the people in your neighborhood. Get to see who is around in your circle, in your environment. It does not matter how old they are, if they're male, if they're female, if they're Black, if they're white, Hispanic, whichever, Jewish, whatever. Just get to know who it is. You never know who's going to bless you, share some great information, and become, a great colleague and connect for many years to come.
You shared some great stories, though. So that's what really really kept me going because I was definitely struggling. So, but I'll let you get into that part and then we can
Girl,
talk more about that.
we're gonna jump right into it. So I want you to share with the audience tonight, if you can kind of just give them a brief synopsis. I do remember you saying that you went to Hofstra because because I have family that graduated from Hofstra.
Mhm,
You can kind of share. We talked about your second career
mhm.
professional. Just kind of give us a little spiel about how you went from that career and then decided to go into nursing.
Well, initially I wanted to become a neurosurgeon like Benjamin Carson, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I started out Hofstra in 1995, and my major was actually biology. So
Mm.
that was me pursuing my medical profession that I wanted to be an MD, and organic chemistry kicked my butt. So that squashed that dream. But I had met a nice African American woman who was a speech pathologist at the school. And she
Mhm.
said, "Why don't you try speech pathology?" Because I had enough science credits. So I said, "Okay, let me just finish and get through."
Mhm.
So I actually finished with a degree, bachelor's degree in speech language pathology. And while in school, I actually worked in retail. So at the age of 19, to help fund books and college tuition and all those things, I worked in retail right there at the Roosevelt Field Mall, which was what, 10
Oh, you
minutes, not
did.
even away. Worked at
Okay.
Roosevelt Field Mall, and I started in retail, at 19. And I did that for about, what, 15 to 18
I
years.
I
I
love
worked in retail.
Roosevelt. I love Roosevelt.
Yeah, that was that. And I was going there before that roof was even completed. So that's how early on I was still, going to that mall. And I eventually transitioned to management, from sales associate to manager and running my own boutiques. So that was the profession that I had. I was in luxury retail management. And then I started to have children. And then I said, what else could I do? What are the job that I could do that allow me to take care of my children, still have the flexibility that retail had because I love the flexibility of retail. It's not 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided on nursing. And then, I walked into Essex County College and said, hey, how can I start the nursing program?
Okay.
And it went from there.
And went from there.
It
And
went
then
from there.
in regards to the nursing program, because
Mhm.
I'm gonna call anybody who knows me knows Liz. Liz is gonna call a spade a spade.
Mhm.
I'm real. I'm all about speaking truth. Now there's a difference between speaking truth and there's a difference between being silent,
Mhm.
intentionally silent. So the reason why I'm going to ask the next question is that for me, I could speak to it. I've been a nurse. This coming May, God's willing, it'll be 25 years I've been a nurse, and I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of interesting shifts, paradigm shifts in nursing. One of which, no dig to you, because I know
Mhm.
we've had a very in-depth conversation about why you wanted to be a nurse,
Mhm.
and you shared with the
Mhm.
audience tonight. You said
Mhm.
that you wanted to be a medical doctor, so you
Mhm.
had healthcare as
Always.
your forefront,
Always.
your backbone. You wanted to help and so forth. Now there are others that see that nursing is a high ticket salary,
Mhm.
easy way to get in to make that money quickly, whether it's a 2-year degree, whether it's a 4-year degree, whether it's a master's degree, whether it's someone that goes on for a master's in nurse practitioner degree and so forth, or DNP and so forth.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask the question, when did you fall in love with nursing? I know you mentioned your second career, but when did you actually? Because I believe in order to really sit there and learn all those sciences,
Mhm.
go through the assessments, actually do these papers to interact, study, talk, therapeutic communication, do psychology courses, microbiology courses, organic chemistry,
Mhm.
chemistry,
Mhm.
um, you know, pathophys, anatomy and physiology, dissecting whether it's a cat, a cadaver, or whichever, or guinea pig. You know, you can't just want to go in for the money.
No,
You know
no.
what I mean? So when did you fall in love with nursing?
I would have to say being a patient.
Okay.
Um, I had 2 children and I had 2 major surgeries, which were C-sections.
Mm,
And knowing the level of care that it takes for someone to actually be at your beck and call because you have the inability to help yourself is
mhm.
really what I said. I wanted to be like one particular nurse that helped me. And I said she was so caring, she was so compassionate. Um, she made me feel like no question was too small or too big.
Okay.
And that's when I really said, this is something that I could do later. So mind you, I had my first child in 2009.
Okay.
Um, However, this has always been something in the back of my head, helping people. Although retail is customer service based, you are taking care of people. You are taking care of their needs. Um, and nursing is a similar thing. It's customer service, it's patient care, it's putting them first, and definitely not for the money. I don't think this is a profession. People say they do, but this is not for money. I could find other ways to make even more money if that were the case, because I
Yes.
love people.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, and the next question would be, if you could think back, which wasn't too far for you, a few years ago, if you could think back to what was the most challenging nursing subject or clinical, because for some people they thrived in their clinical rotations, but then they really struggled in the academic area, right? And
Right.
and then there's some that really thrived in the academic area, and then there are people that struggled on the clinical side, clinical skills. I actually knew somebody that graduated as valedictorian from the college that I graduated, and
Hmm.
she used to tell me all it. Actually, she went back and got her pharmacy degree, became a
Oh
pharmacist,
wow. Hmm.
and then when it became a library and scientist. And I believe she's still working at Rutgers to this day.
Wow.
But she always said that she actually failed clinically in one of the clinical rotations, because she said
Hmm.
she struggled with the tactile, being able to
Aspect of it. Hmm.
aspect of it. So if you could think about a clinical rotation or a particular subject, like let me share with you, with the
Hmm.
audience, the the area that I struggled with the most was pediatrics. Number one, I don't know if it's because I didn't have any siblings to kind of
Hmm.
like have a reference point.
Hmm.
Number two, I didn't have any children. And number three, I just, I could never seem to get the questions right. It was
Right.
like everything that I had to read, I had to think like I was a 5-year-old child, or I had
Right.
to think like I was a 10-year-old, blah, blah, blah. If I was
Hmm.
teaching, it was just a whole like shift of the mindset. And when I tell you I was struggling, I I really thought that that was going to be the class. I remember I was it was spring semester junior year, and I was having, I'm not one to really like show outwardly that I'm stressed,
Struggling. Hmm.
but that particular course really did me in. Like I remember just looking at a grade. You know how they post your grades on the
Right.
wall. They post your grades,
Back in the day. Yep.
and and I just went up. I saw that grade. I just posted myself against the wall and gently brought myself down to the ground.
Wow.
'Cause I felt like I was gonna pass out,
Right. Right.
because that was like, I was like, I gotta make this. I
Hmm.
gotta make it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So and I struggled. I struggled. But one of the things I did find was that I went and got Lippincott. Has
Yes.
all these
Yep.
different I call them the cliff notes,
Hmm.
the shorter
The
version,
shorter version
the
of a
shorter ver-
subject.
the shorter version of these big 2,000 or 3,000 textbook pages
Mm-hmm.
that, sometimes you'd have to read 20 chapters to
Yes.
figure it out,
Just to understand it.
just to understand it. And
Right.
sometimes, depending on what your day looked like, you're like falling asleep and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, am I going to get this? Did I
Right.
understand it? Did I
Right.
read it? Or how about this? I would highlight every single word.
Everything is highlighted. Everything is important. Everything, every page is important.
I highlighted everything in the page, and I was like, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
my question to you, what was the course that almost did you in?
Critical care. That's the last semester.
Really? Okay.
Critical care, which is dealing with vents, which is your cardiac meds. That was a struggle. I was a C student. I'll tell anybody, all C's. C's get degrees in nursing. And that's exactly what I got every single semester. And I earned every single C. These are like A's. I earned every C.
Yeah,
Very
no, it's true. No, but I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because I remember stressing because in nursing school your grades will go up and down like a roller coaster, literally.
Surely, yeah.
Okay? You think you're like riding high. Let's pop some champagne. Woo woo! I got a 98, and then you turn around and get a 38. You're like,
On the next,
what?
yes, ma'am. So yeah, critical care would have to be the hardest. That was the last semester. I didn't have any I actually enjoyed clinicals. I felt stronger clinically than I did, textbook wise, but and then I failed my exit exam. So, but then I'm still a nurse.
Yes, Kayla Vera just said, please share those resources for my daughter. Most definitely, Kayla. Kayla's daughter is a nursing student down in, I can't remember the name, but it's somewhere down, I believe in the Philly area, in the Pennsylvania area.
Okay.
But yeah, Kayla.
Lippincott, Saunders. I used Saunders. That was my go-to. If I couldn't understand a concept, Saunders. Whatever edition they're up to now, just SAUNDERS.
Yes, and James said hi.
Hey, James.
Yeah, James is another gentleman. We had him on Past the Mic back in 2020. Yes, and oh yeah, you better say and Elizabeth.
Right.
So anyway, so with that being said, yeah, so you said critical care really kind of did you in. But I really wanted to highlight this because it's so important that people know that you can get A's, yeah, you can get B's, but it's also important to know that a C is a passing grade.
Yes, it is.
And so long as you're passing,
yes,
that's all that matters. Because that paper, that degree goes a long way, just like in every other state. So that's all that really matters. And we just wanted to confirm that. So how did you overcome that challenging experience? Like when you were like, oh my God, I'm just making it.
I had to dive even harder. As silly as it sounds, I worked for every single C. So the C didn't mean I didn't work hard. That was the grade that I got and that I earned, but it didn't mean that I wasn't working hard. Different nursing school questions are very different from your average other subjects. Nursing school is a different beast. So to answer your question, I worked harder. I had to understand more concepts, YouTube, EKG strips. Imagine studying a subject that you haven't really touched. I never touched a ventilator. I haven't had a patient on a ventilator, but I'm studying what PEEP sounds are, what high flow, what low flow, all those different alarms mean, but I haven't actually physically done it. So YouTube was my friend. I'm going to YouTube someone on a ventilator just so I can see what's going on. So that's how I overcame it. I had to dig even deeper, even harder into my soul just to get through.
The good thing for you is that you had YouTube.
I
25 years ago
Mm-hmm.
plus, because I graduated 25 years ago. So like we're talking over like what, 20 something years. So I didn't have that. I
Right.
had books and I had to kind of visualize, or
Right.
we had to practice on one another. So with that being said, even with the pediatrics, I really had to. Oh, I know. So let me share something with the group,
Mm-hmm.
with the audience. I had to really humble myself. I almost want to say, I kind of went into my Debbie Allen performance. Like I
Mm.
actually had to perform and say, "Oh my gosh, I know I really wanted to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get it twisted.
Right.
But I had to really up the ante. Like I can't. You don't understand what this means. That I'm. No, I wasn't first generation. That my mom
Mm-hmm.
and dad were first generation. But I really had to like really make the story like really great.
Right.
And I went and spoke to the skills lab instructor who really took pity on me. And my father would say, never let anybody pity you. But I really, like Mr. T would say, they'll pity a
You're
fool. I
fool.
really wanted
Mm-hmm.
them to pity me because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to pass.
Of
Well,
course.
see, so I learned about a particular, um, the reason why Alicia's not on is
Mm-hmm.
they're having tornado warnings in North Carolina. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
anyway, so
It's coming this way, but go ahead.
yeah. So with that being said, she gave me access to a board game that was for pediatrics,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what saved me.
Mm.
That board game had all the questions. Actually, had a lot of the questions that were being utilized in the nursing instructor's exam.
Yams.
And what
Okay.
I did, see, and then I want to share something with all of you that are watching or that will catch the replay. When you get information, don't just hold it to yourself.
Right. Right.
Okay. I have met a lot of people along the way in my nursing journey. There was a time I had failed one year, and anytime you fail, you have to wait a whole new year to take the course over. When you have people that have information, share the resources.
Yes.
It does not hurt.
Hurt.
If
Right.
you bless somebody with the resources, you will be blessed too.
That's
And
right.
it'll all help each other, and it will strengthen you as a group.
Right.
But when you come into this belief system of being in silos, or I'm going to be smarter or the best,
Right. Right.
that's when you're going to hurt each other. Because in the end, as I mentioned before, some people are stronger clinically, some
Right.
people are stronger academically. I was all about, let's bring everybody together and see what's everybody's strong suits so we can all graduate together.
Together. Exactly.
And yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know if Alicia's going to join us, but I'll mention how we worked that out 25 years ago. So was there ever a moment that you thought about quitting the profession or quitting the program? Like I know so many people, like, right, that when you first get into, we talked about this, we laughed. They said when you get into anatomy and physiology, and I don't know why they do this. I think it's very destructive. Destructive tactic. I don't believe they should say this, but they do it not only in nursing school, but they do it in medical school too. They say, look to your left, look to your right. About half or more will no longer be here.
That's true. They shouldn't say it, but it was definitely true first semester for our class.
So throughout your journey, was there ever a time in the program that you wanted to quit? And then you just graduated in 2019. So you are just coming up off the cusp of going into the COVID. Oh, girl, I mean, so I'm just curious from your perspective, what did that look like for you?
So to answer your question, I never wanted to quit the program.
Okay.
Because I'm not a quitter.
Okay.
Have I thought about quitting the profession? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, this is not an easy job. Um, but again, I'm not a quitter. So, I roll with the punches. And I will have to honestly say it was during COVID um, that I was like, I can't believe I keep coming here every single shift, knowing that either someone's going to die on my shift or no one's going to be able to relieve me because I work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. But there were times I wouldn't get off until 12 o'clock in the afternoon and then still come back for that 7 p.m. shift because there weren't enough nurses. So to answer your question, during COVID, I was like, man,
we're still in the pandemic.
well, in the height
of
of it, which was March of 2020, I was only a nurse for maybe 5 months.
Mm.
And I'm titrating drips
Oof.
that's usually an ICU that I've never, Raconia and propofol.
You're wait. You were titrating drips?
Because they would vent the patient in the room. So I have 8 patients. They're all COVID. I have 8 patients. So one of them, they may come and,
Did you go through a critical care course? Okay.
I was ACLS certified, but so in terms of propofol, no. In terms of raconium, no. But remember, our president had given us rights to
no, I know.
practice beyond our scope of practice. So
I know.
yeah.
I know.
So you were given a quick how-to, what you can go up 5, what you can go down
so
on.
You were getting a crash CCU course.
Right there, right then and there. Once they vented the patient, you were given a crash course on which one you can go up or down on, and you're still monitoring your patient because they're trying to self-extubate because they can feel this large tube down their throat.
Yes.
And you want to try and sedate them again. So you want to get a little bit more propofol. But again, you got to know how much to give. So, but during that time, I really questioned what was going on here and how I could keep pushing through. And I would have to say that had to be God, because every day I called on the Lord. Every shift I called on the Lord to just help me get through.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My heart really went out to those of you that were in the heat, in the moment. I even reflected back to what things looked like for me when I first came out of nursing school. And back then, I was coming out of nursing school at the tail end of the HIV epidemic. And, there was a lot on standard precautions and things like that. And when I could think of all of you that just came out and going into the heat of this COVID,
right,
which was killing people so rapidly and affecting people on such various levels. Symptoms were so, varied among everybody.
Everybody was different.
It was different. And then I was getting, I have clients all the time. I coach nurses all the time, but I was getting an overwhelming outpour from nurses, especially newer grads. Like, how can I do this? How can I sustain this? I don't know if I really want this. And I had to kind of encourage and I would talk to them. I didn't take any new clients on because I myself was like, what's this going to look like for nursing? Where are we going? And the biggest thing that I would say to the newer grads or new nurse second career is that every generation has its we didn't have pandemic,
right?
Epidemic. So hold on, because there are people that had deal with tuberculosis, those that had to do with AIDS, HIV, those that had to do, and I not only did I have to deal with HIV, I also had to deal with 9/11 as a trauma patient.
Right.
So and that really played on my head. So kudos to you. Kudos to all the nurses that are in the forefront, still in the forefront, at the bedside. Do not sleep.
Right.
Bedside nurses is where it's at, because yes, I call it the administrators. Yes, you may have clipboard nurses walking around with their lab coats, and they look so pristine,
Right.
and they're utilizing their clinical and critical skill set, but we need more nurses at the bedside. We need more nurses at the bedside, and nurses, the mentality can no longer be nurses eat their young. Nurses need to really come together and have unity. And like you said, I love the fact that you said you called on God,
Mm-hmm.
really asking for more of prayer with
Mm-hmm.
before you even, because I know in certain units that I used to work, we used to start praying before we even started a shift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, that kind
I
of,
prayed over the medication. I prayed over the medication before I gave it to my patients. They didn't know that, but I would pray over the medication before I gave it to them, because
amen.
that's how real it was. And did we know hydrochloroquine was going to work, or whatever we were doing was going to work for the patient? I would pray over this medication and pray that it healed them, and prayed
Wow.
for a speedy recovery
Yeah.
so people can get
Yeah.
back to their families, because it was that real.
And let me ask you something. Did they do any kind of debriefing? Because I know for when 9/11 was real. We had to do a lot of, not even 9/11, even with any trauma ICU patients or anything
Mhm.
traumatic, we used to debrief. And I know I can't even imagine with those many types of patients coming in. Was there ever a time that maybe management, the nursing leadership came together and did some debriefing, talking, or maybe some pastoral care where there's a pastor or chaplain or somebody to come and feed you spiritually or meditate with you or anything?
No, we didn't really have that. We just knew that that was available to us if we needed it. But for someone to physically come, doctors didn't even want to go in the rooms. They would ask you, how's the patient? So, that was kind of a part where people weren't really coming to the floor. Nurses were just, we were the sacrificial lambs, and we were the ones who were just running, running on E. I never
Yeah.
knew I could work 7 p.m. to 12 o'clock in the afternoon the next day and still come back for my 7 p.m. shift.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
like, I don't know how, because there was no nurse to relieve me. They would call
Yeah.
you and say, listen, I don't have anybody to come relieve you. And I
Yeah.
start passing out 9 a.m. meds. I just finished my
Wow.
shift. I'm like, okay, might as well start passing out 9 a.m. meds. Let's
Wow.
give these afternoon meds. So, but
Well,
I'm going to say this.
hmm.
This is the reason why nursing school is so difficult. It needed to be difficult. You need to go through that, because
Hmm.
there's no way in the world you can then. I'm thankful for it now. Back then, I hated the struggle, but
Hmm.
there's no way I would have made it through that early part of that pandemic had nursing school not been so difficult. It
Awesome.
shows you how to overcome things, right? How to
Awesome.
persevere.
Awesome. Yes, yes, it's so true, so true. And then in regards to now that you're out in the workforce, what did it look like for you? Did you see a stark reality that, because black and brown nurses are about 3% of the population,
Mm-hmm.
and forget it if it's somebody with a doctoral degree, we're talking about maybe 1.5%.
Right, right.
So in order to increase diversity and inclusion of minorities, and minorities also including other populations,
Mm-hmm.
male, Latino population, Asian population, what would be some thoughts? What are your thoughts, in your opinion, um, that you would probably share with maybe your employee, the place that where you work, or maybe even universities, to recruit? What are some thoughts that came to you, like, wow, I'm only, because I know for me, whatever role I was always in and still in, I have always been, I remember in the trauma ICU right there in the heart of Jersey City, which is plenty of brown and black people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was the only, it was two
Only.
of us, but it was really, for the most part, I was the only full time. Yeah, I was just me. And
Right.
it was so frustrating. And then again, I remember there was another opportunity where I was on a night shift. It was just, it was, no, it was another African American, but it wasn't that many of us. And
Mm-hmm.
then again, when I went into the role of administration, it was like, it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I decided to shift into the role of, education specialist, nurse education specialist, it was just me.
Right.
So obviously there are people that want to become nurses, and there are people that want to be doctors or be in the healthcare field, or pursue. So what are some ways, what are some thoughts that you think could increase the diversity, recruiting people in at the university level, whether students or even nurses into the profession,
Well,
considering everything that's going on right now today. And I just read an article, I don't know if you saw it.
mm,
There's a young lady in Philadelphia that was charged with manslaughter.
recently, no, I
Yeah,
didn't see that.
today.
Well, in terms of having more exposure, we would have to start at the school level, middle school, high school level. Um, having these career days are always very important. I don't know if they're doing them now, but having people that look like them visit schools. We need to start at that lower grade level, because that's when you need to start thinking about, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to be when I grow up, right? So starting at the middle school, high school level, and then of course at the college level also, everyone has an advisor, an academic advisor, right? But I need someone who looks like you and I, representing brown people, black people, in that level. And then when you get to, for example, the hospitals, this is a big thing now. Having diversity inclusion specialists um, are now at the hospital level. So even at the hospital that I'm in, there is someone who's like the director, and I would hope that they're partnering with human resources to hire more people that represent the community. I work in a black and brown community, yet we're still the lowest population. You know, I work now postpartum, and there's only two African Americans and one Hispanic on my unit.
um,
So it's up to the agency that you work at to really work on hiring and going to schools and having job fairs and things like that at these schools, like Essex County College, where it's predominantly Black and Hispanic, where I graduated from, and recruiting people from these levels.
yes, yes, no, I agree. And you have two little girls, two
Hmm.
daughters.
Hmm.
I, even though I had two sons, but I have two sons.
Hmm.
They were little. I remember when they were in preschool, I would go in and then definitely represent for nursing,
Right.
because you never know at what level you'll be able to spark the passion and desire for someone to go in and become a nurse. So
Yeah,
yeah,
because those career days at school are important. Go
yeah,
to
yes,
your
yeah,
kids, if your child's school's like, oh, we're having career day. Okay, I'm gonna show up.
exactly,
Right, lab
exactly.
coat. I'm gonna be the nurse that you're gonna see. Oh, look, you can be a nurse too.
Exactly, exactly. So moving into nursing school versus the real world,
Two
right?
different things. Two different things.
Okay, so with that being said, do you feel that your nursing school journey prepared you? And now you got to listen, because some of you that are watching, and some of them, some people are probably student nurses, some are family members of nurses, and so forth. Do you feel that nursing school journey prepared you for, I call it the bureaucracy, the diplomacy, the political red tape, the financial challenges, because I remember, especially when I first came out, there was a lot of fiscal challenges at the hospital that I was working at. And that particular hospital would have like freeze on supply holds because they didn't pay the bill. Okay. We used to have to like really, what's the word? Ration,
Mm-hmm.
hide curlix, hide bandages, hide stuff, and
Essentials.
this is
Essentials
be
for wound
yes,
care. Essentials for a lot of things.
all the essentials, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is before Pyxis system. For any of you, those of you that are watching who don't know what a Pyxis system is, it's similar to a kiosk that, or like a vending machine where you type in a particular code and it dispenses whatever it is that you need, you know, whether it's band-aids, whether it's medication or so forth. But I remember literally we would have nurses hoarding. And I'm pretty sure to this day, people are still doing that.
Yes.
Because that's the only way.
You hoard your supplies that you know you might need.
That's the only way you're going to survive if something is running low.
Right.
And so even staffing shortages or cultural dynamics and personality traits. Do you feel that nursing school prepared you for all this?
No.
Okay. I appreciate your transparency. And why do I say that?
Nursing school prepares you to take NCLEX. So then you can then get a job and then go be a nurse. So you learn nursing. It's on the job training. That's where you really become. That's when you really learn how to become a nurse, is at the job, on the job. Nursing school prepares you to take that NCLEX, pass that NCLEX, go fill out your application. You are now hired as your little baby nurse, and now you get to be a nurse. Now nursing begins. To me,
okay. So on for you felt that. Okay.
yes.
Because I felt that nursing school did prepare, well, because of a lot of situations that, let me dial back. So I went to a 4-year program. Mm-hmm. You had your 4-year degree, but then you went for a 2-year degree at Essex County. So I went to Bloomfield College, which is a 4-year baccalaureate program, where the back then BSN there was a big push about BSN in 10 and BSNs
in 20
are going to be leaders and all this stuff. And depending on who the instructor was, you did have those that were really, I call them visionaries, and really forethought and talked about leadership skills and talked about thinking beyond, you know, the circumstance, and being able to have anticipatory thoughts about, you know, how am I going to navigate in a situation where a particular institution does not have resources? How am I going to, you know, provide resources to my patients? How am I going to teach my patients? How am I going to educate? How am I going to do so forth? So it depends really what level, you know, whether, and there are some that will debate me and say, no, I went to a 2-year school, and that 2-year degree, the associate degree, prepared me, you know, because especially for those that came way before you, those that were prepared in a 2-year degree actually had more hands-on clinical experiences. But things have really shifted. And interestingly, it seems like even in nursing school right now, there are more applicants than there are professors.
Right.
So I'm hoping somehow this live will, you know, spark somebody's interest and will actually, you know, encourage more to go into the profession, because like we mentioned in the top of the broadcast, this is a profession that you have to go into because you like servicing people. You love helping people, you love educating people, you love being able to inspire people. This is not a profession that you go
Mm-mm.
to for just the money.
No, no.
Definitely not. So thank you for sharing that, your
Mm-hmm.
transparency in
Mm-hmm.
regards to that. They do teach you, they do drill down how to take the test so you can pass the NCLEX.
You're
So,
going to learn all the material necessary because, of
mhm,
course, you need the book work in order to do any type of clinical skills,
mhm,
But like I said, it was more in preparation of taking that big exam. Um, I'm a second career. I started at 40 years old. I'll be 45. So I already had leadership skills. I already had education. I already had a lot of things that I needed to become a nurse after graduating school because I led a team of people. I know what it is to delegate and things like that. So, but does it prepare you for, like you were saying, the fiscal challenges that come about, nurse bullying, um, maybe passive aggressions, microaggressions? Does it prepare
microaggression.
you? Does it
Yeah,
prepare you for any of that? No,
no,
doesn't
yeah,
prepare you for that. So if you're a young person, and at this stage, you'll be what? If you go to a 4-year school, you're coming out at what, 21? Um, you're gonna
21.
learn you're gonna have to learn how to advocate for yourself and your patient. You can't be this timid person and say, I know they're not giving my patient enough pain medication, but I'm just gonna stay quiet. No, you're gonna say, you know what? This one tab of Percocet is not working for my C-section patient. I need 2. She's saying it's a 10. You're gonna call the doctor, get on the phone and say, listen, I need 2 tabs. This is not working. All of that will come with the confidence of the job. All of that is confidence and critical thinking. You're gonna have to
Yeah,
get with
yeah.
it.
And I thank you for sharing that because that's very important for a new grad, new nurse coming out in their 20s. And I remember coming out and my mother saying, well, what do you want for graduation? I said, back then, I don't know if they don't even do that now, but I wanted, it was a gold pin, and that gold pin had my first, middle initial, and last name. And I wanted to make no mistake
Mm-hmm.
that this black female,
Mm-hmm.
and black and beautiful and
Right.
brilliant,
Right.
had her BSN,
Right.
RN. Okay,
Right.
I didn't want it. Don't get it twisted. Okay, I didn't want any mistakes.
Well,
So
all my letters, all of them.
all my letters, and there was a reason why I did that because I knew what the struggle was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what the struggle was going to be,
Mm-hmm.
given the fact. Let me just share real quick this particular story. When I was in nursing school, and one of the particular courses, I'm not even going to call the course. Um, the majority of the black student females in my class, we were surpassing all the other cultures
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
academically.
Mm-hmm.
And a particular student went and said to the teacher that we were cheating.
Could it be those grades are way too high? They were way too high.
They were way too high. If you knew me back then, I was mouth almighty. Not in a
Disrespectful way.
not in a disrespectful way, but
Mm-hmm.
I was going to challenge the status quo. And it was so hurtful because you know what they made us do? I'm just sharing this for a reason. I don't know if somebody's watching this and maybe my spirit said to share it. Um, when we went in, we were told to move our desks, face them against the wall
Wow.
every single time we took a test. It was
Wow.
six. It was six. The systems you have: cardiac,
Mm-hmm.
respiratory,
Mm-hmm.
immunology. Skin integrity.
Endocrine. Mm-hmm.
So endocrine, and
Mm-hmm.
it was about. I remember we were about six systems in, and they were like, "Oh no, there's no way that they could be scoring that high." And I'll never forget. I had to hold that in my chest. I didn't even tell my mom and my dad.
Oh my
Let me
God.
tell you what was an inspiring movie because I didn't know that it was happening to them. It was the Tuskegee Airmen.
Mm.
The Tuskegee Airmen in the 1920s
Mm-hmm.
went through the same thing. And I thank God it was that February of 1996 that I was watching Tuskegee Airmen on HBO at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so it's because of the color of my skin.
Right. You couldn't
Um,
possibly.
that it cannot, not just me, but the others as well that
Mm-hmm.
were going through this. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll be a story for another, or for a book or a documentary as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
But
Because I'm sure your story is not an isolated one.
not at all. So, in your opinion, since you've been out, what specialty area do you feel that would be believe is a great need for nurses right now? Like I know when I first came out, critical care was
Mm-hmm.
very big. Women's health was very big. Maternal child. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry that tornadoes going on in North Carolina. We don't have Alicia on. I'll
Mm-hmm.
invite her another time. But what areas do you see, given the fact that you're still in this pandemic? You were a nurse 5 months into the pandemic. What do you see as important?
I would say med surg tele is still, people are living longer, but they're also sicker. Um,
Okay.
there, there's always going to be a need. There's still the chronic hypertension. There's still the diabetes. That's still unfortunately seen mostly in the African American and Latino community. So there's still going to be a need for med surg tele nurses
Okay.
always.
And
Um, that that's where I started. That's it's always going to be a need for that reason.
oh,
People are living longer
definitely,
and they're still sick. We're
definitely.
having chronic diseases now that when I speak to nurses, I'm like, how did you do this for 30 years? I can't imagine doing this another 10. And they're saying people were not this sick.
Yeah.
We didn't have these issues. Even in maternal health, where we're giving labetalol to these moms with hypertension,
Hmm.
nurses tell me we weren't giving labetalol. We weren't giving cardiac meds to these moms. They were healthy. So that's been the transition. People are living longer, but they're also sicker.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And then the other thing too, I would definitely lean in areas for nursing specialty besides um, med surg, tele, cardiac,
Psych, psych.
renal. Yeah, mental health is a
Yep.
big, big, big one.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to one of my cardiac NP colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, "Girl, I'm going back in. I'm going back for my psych NP." And
Everyone's doing that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was telling her that once I finish up this doctoral degree,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have intentions to go into the do the psych component because there's a big need. There's a
But
big
that's across the board. So
there,
even in women's health, we're
there
giving psych meds.
yeah.
Med surg tele, you're giving psych meds.
Hmm.
Um, your bipolar, your schizophrenics, definitely depression.
Yes, yes. And another
So,
area too is renal.
oh,
We need more nurses, especially African American and Latina
hmm,
nurses in that area because um, our African, our
kidney
black
disease.
black women, black men, and Latina
Hmm.
population is really impacted by kidney disease by
Yeah,
way of uncontrolled diabetes,
disease,
uncontrolled
hypertension.
hypertension. So that's a great area too because a lot of time I smile. People say, "Oh, I don't have sugar issues." I don't have, salt issues, but then, I crack up. I left the hospital setting. I'm
Hmm.
now on the corporate side, insurance side.
Hmm.
But however, it's still important to educate our patients because I would have a patient that has congestive heart failure, and every time I would call him after and follow up with him in regards to his plan and the
Hmm.
medications, and he'll tell me about how he ate his pulled pork, and the pulled pork is loaded with salt.
Sodium.
sodium, and then it would send him right back into the hospital, and he's wondering why his blood pressure is uncontrolled and
And why
fluid
he's still taking that
retention.
water pill? Why I'm
And
still
yeah,
taking this water
exactly.
pill? You
So
taking the water pill because you're still increasing all the sodium.
yeah, so like I said, there's so many opportunities in nursing, and not even just in the four walls of a hospital setting. You can work, in the community area. You can work urgent care. You can work in the media. You could be you know a, a, a live stream media broadcaster working, side by
Work
side
on movie
with
sets,
movie
television.
sets, television. There's so many opportunities in nursing, but the main thing right now is you have to get the basics. You have to go through the
Yep.
basics, and
Yep.
you have to crawl before you walk.
Right.
Don't just think that. I'll never forget. I remember walking the hallway one time, and I had my lab coat, and I look relatively young, and this young student, which I admire the fact that she has aspiration. I would never dumb down anybody's aspirations, but she said to me, once she came out of nursing school, that's where she wants to be. And I just smiled, and I was a nursing director, and I was kind of looking at her like, do you understand the steps, the amount of um, clinical experience and academic preparation and
Right.
certifications and
That's
all the
necessary.
stuff that was necessary to get to that? But I didn't, I figured, she was young, she's excited. Let her have her dream. But that was that. So what would be,
I did want to say one more thing.
go ahead.
I don't want any new nurse to think that they have to start in med surg tele.
Mm-mm.
You can start in any specialty that you want, but we do find that we are less likely hired. I've seen that where Blacks and Hispanics are not hired in specialties. If you like oncology, you can start and be hired on an oncology floor. If you like women's health, you can start on a health. If you like L&D, so you do not have to start in med surg tele. I want that to be known.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely different now.
I want people to know they can start in any specialty you want, and you push for that.
Yeah, you could start it, but let me just preface it with this, because coming from being an educator role, you can start in any specialty you want, but know that there's going to be a certain amount of determination that you're going to have to exhibit. There's a certain amount of discipline which you're going to have to. If you're going into a specialty area, you're going to even have to study more. It's not just the information that you learned from nursing school. This is now learning more information on the specialty realm, because when I went into when I left med surg, it was a med surg ventilator unit, and I went to critical care. I had to learn a whole new set of things, ventilators, this whole systems that, all over again. I had to learn machines. I had to learn. It was just a lot. So you can go into any specialty, but I hope that you will execute determination, discipline, dedication, and drive to push through and persevere, because specialty areas are not for the faint at heart. No. It requires additional, education and exercise, things like that. So you can go into any specialty area, but be ready. Just be ready for the preparation. So the last parting thought I just wanted to ask is that, do you have any words of inspiration that you would share with a student nurse? Think about when you were a student nurse. Think about as a new nurse when you first came out. And then nurses, and then I want you to think about, for those that have been in the profession even longer, and that yet they if they desire to grow and expand their talents and experiences, what would be some inspirational advice that you would give to the, especially, like, let me give you an example. You have somebody who's been at the bedside who's, I couldn't stand when I used to, like I told you, I'm very truthful of the matter, but I would be respectful. When people start groaning and griping and complaining, I was like, you have options. You don't have to
Right.
stay here. It's like
Right.
you're gonna
Right.
make my life miserable day in and day out.
Right.
So what are some advice that you would give to a student nurse, new nurse, and somebody who's been maybe at that particular specialty or area for quite some time and maybe unhappy, but they're really great at what they do?
I would say for new nurses, um, maybe balance, have some type of work life balance where you take mental breaks, where you go on vacation. You only work 3 days a week, right? And I say only because you have 4 other days that you can do some other things. So, say you want to transition. I'm going to use myself as an example. I've been in mother baby for a year and a half. After 2 years, you can become certified. Am I always happy? No, I complain because there's always something for me to complain about. However, I enjoy helping my patients. So I want to get certified. If you're unhappy or you're not sure or you still want to learn more, I advise everyone to always continue education. Keep going. When you finish nursing school and you say, okay, maybe you got your ADN and you want to now get your BSN, always continue your education. That's one advice that I could give. And use all of your resources, whether it be your parents, whether it be another colleague. Look at you, Elizabeth. I met you in Barnes and Nobles. Be vocal, speak up, always be willing to learn, accept criticism.
Yes. Can you say that
Um,
again? Because a
yeah,
lot of nurses out here don't want to.
accept criticism. Someone's not. Sometimes it's the delivery from people, but a lot of times people mean no harm. They're just trying to show you things, and just be open to learning any and everything you possibly can. If there's a residency program, which there are a lot now, I see a lot of residency programs. If you're a new student about to graduate, which hospital has a residency? It may be 12 months. That's excellent. That means there's someone to carry you. I was thrown into the mix. We only had 6 weeks of orientation, and 2 of them were in the classroom. So if you can get a year of someone helping guide you, look for a residency program. And again, for someone who's currently a nurse and maybe not sure what they want to do, try a different unit. That can help you because sometimes you lose your passion because of where you're at. Try another unit. So, you know what? Maybe I want to try oncology. Maybe I want to try and do wound care. Whatever the case may be, that's my advice in order to keep you going and see if this
And
truly is still what you want to do.
definitely, definitely. I thank you for that
Mhm.
transparency. And I do want to add, there are going to be times that you may switch your track from one particular area of specialty into another. And if you really truly enjoy and have a desire and a passion to make impact, like for example, I'll never forget the time that I transitioned into the trauma ICU. Um, I was basically a full-time new employee that now there was I was, I guess, a competitor to a per diem staff nurse,
Mm,
and that staff nurse was making my experience
mm,
a living hell.
mm,
But I was wise enough, even though I was young. I remember I was only like 26.
mm-hmm.
I was wise enough to know what her game plan was.
Well, it was right.
And I was quick enough to also check her on her
Mm-hmm.
game plan. She was my preceptor. How about that, right? And she was trying to sabotage me on purpose.
Wow.
And I told her quietly, and I'm just sharing this with someone just for a reason. I pulled her to the side and I told her with a smile on my face, I know exactly what you're up to. There's more than enough work for both of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you do not let down with what you're trying to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to blow your cover.
Yeah.
I told her with
Yeah.
a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, but when I tell you she was changing ventilator settings on me.
Oh,
She was changing drips settings on me. Yes, yeah.
dangerous.
She was doing all kinds of things to self sabotage me.
Mm,
And what I did was I went and I spoke to the nurse educator at the time at that facility to let her know that this is what I was experiencing. And then because every unit, every new nurse, every new grad, every orientee has a specified educator that's given to
yep,
them.
yep.
And with that being said, I had told the educator, no, 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 don't tell the manager just yet. I want to see how much, how much sabotage is this woman going to
Gonna
do?
do.
And she continued. And
Mm-hmm.
finally, I had had enough. And I said, I'm blowing my whistle. And she knew what
Mm-hmm.
I meant, meaning that I was going to tell the manager. And I had the manager bring her in. And at that time, it wasn't pictures, but what I did was I had somebody else in the unit be a vouch
Right.
for me, to vouch that these are the settings on the
Settings that you
ventilator.
had.
These are the settings on the drips. This is blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how. So I'm sharing this for a reason, because there are going to be times. Unfortunately, the reality is we talked about nursing world and the reality. Reality is that sometimes people that are not comfortable with who they are. You see,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned God. See,
Mm-hmm.
I walk with the armor of God.
Oh,
So I don't shake.
absolutely.
I don't shake. People always wonder, oh, you don't tremble, you don't shake. No, because I have the armor of God. Okay,
That's right.
I'm God's property. So
That's right.
when you know who you are and whose you are, and
Mm-hmm.
you walk in truth, we all of us nurses, at some point in time, we had to take an oath. Didn't you take the Hippocratic oath?
Yes,
So we
absolutely.
all have to take an oath, and we all have to walk in truth and light.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you that are watching this live tonight, for those that will catch the replay, or those that desire to go into the healthcare profession, be a nurse, respiratory therapist, doctor, whichever, just know that you can do it at any given time,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to walk in truth and light and have the dedication, determination, discipline, and the love to really
Right.
help people.
Right.
So is there anything else that you'd like to add? Because I'm going to conclude the broadcast for tonight.
I would I would just say for everyone to just keep persevering with it, whichever goal you have. Anything that you want to do, just keep on pushing and persevere and don't quit.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
my name is Elizabeth Corshu. I am the founder and CEO of Nurse Exec Innovations. Feel free to follow me on Instagram, Nurse Exec Innovations, or the Facebook page, Nurse Exec Innovations as well. Thank you so much, Lia.
You're
Take
welcome.
care.
Thank
God bless.
you.
Have a great evening. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.